So I borrowed an outfit from JCPenney's, kept the tags on, and took the bus downtown Chicago and went to this agency, and I sat down. And she said, I brought you in here just to help you out by telling you you'll never make it in this business. You should just become a bartender.
I really hope you remember her name.
I do. And I sent her a cover of me and the Rolling Stone 2 years later.
My God.
I believe that each and every one of us has the power within ourselves to create the life that we really want. And I want to help give you the tools to make that happen. I'm Danica Patrick, and I'm pretty intense.
Today on the show is the beautiful Jenny McCarthy. So Jenny and I are probably sisters from another mister in another life, or perhaps another galaxy, as you'll learn in this episode. We have, from like very early on, just doing interviews for her show. When we would meet at the SiriusXM studio, we really connected very quickly on consciousness and extraterrestrial and energy and just all of the things in life that for me are my daily content of what I read about, what I'm learning about, what I watch on YouTube, shows that I like watching, documentaries that I like watching. So she kind of takes us on this really, really, really fun roller coaster ride from being a kid that grew up outside Chicago, like myself, and then getting to the point that she is now with her curiosities, but the lessons that she learned along the way and the challenges that she had. And you are 100% going to laugh your ass off. I did. And you're also going to fall in love with Jenny because if you haven't already, because she's truly a well-rounded person. She is smart. She is curious. She is beautiful. She is determined. She is wise. And you're going to figure that all out in this episode. So I hope you enjoy the show.
Hi, pretty girl.
Hi, beautiful. I love your shirt. For those who are only listening, tell everyone what it says.
Life is short. Don't be a dick. I know my son was just upstairs and he goes, your shirt's a little inappropriate. I go, but true. He goes, you're right.
True. What made you like, what's going on today that you're like, today's the day I'm going to put this shirt on?
You know what? It was the only thing that was clean in my t-shirt drawer. So there was no purpose but that.
A good enough reason. So we're both like Chicago girls. I'm just going to call us Chicago girls, even though we were kind of born and raised a little outside of Chicago. We don't want to bother people with those silly details. So what do you think it is that makes us girls from that area so great?
You know, I got to tell you, because after living in LA then for 20 years, yeah, I would always figure out energetically like somebody I liked, and then they happened to be from Chicago. And I'm like, of course. Like, I fell in love with you and I didn't realize until after the fact. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if that's why, but I do believe that there's something homegrown and grounding in the Midwest, and not to offend anybody else on the coasts, but there's just, I don't know, there's just something that feels real. It feels like when I lived in LA and I came back here to visit my mom when I was in my 20s, I'd be like, ew, gross. You guys are all so behind on trends, you know, me in my 20s. And as I got older, every time I go back to Chicago, I feel like this sense of like peace. Or if I, went to Michigan or in Indiana or anywhere, there's just, I think it's just more of a moral grounding maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously isolating, Chicago, but it's really the Midwest. I mean, I feel like whenever you're out and about and you like someone's friendly and they're nice and you're like, where are you from? And they go inevitably Michigan,
right. That's right.
Indiana, Wisconsin. And you're like, oh, got it. Yep. Makes perfect sense now.
That's why.
Yeah. So maybe it's then worth like talking about childhood. Like, what is it that crafts? Like, what is it about the Midwest? Maybe we're gonna, there's country songs made about flyover states and all, but like maybe somebody would be like, you know what? That sounds like a great place to live. Or maybe we're just going to tell silly, ridiculous stories about being drunk in cornfields. I'm not really sure, but like, what was high school like? What's a party like in high school where you grew up?
What I feel like, I'll back it up even more, because I remember, having all the neighbors sit on their porch, drinking beers, hardworking people, blue collar. My dad was a steel worker and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but was also a hairdresser. So she cut everyone's hair in the neighborhood so she could feed us dinner. And I just saw this like pride, proudness, hardworking, but also knowing how to enjoy life and the family unit. It's just not the same anymore. And catching lightning bugs,
Totally.
Just being able to walk anywhere to the dime store, playing sports, always having like your parents there. And then by the time teenage world came up, it was, I went to an all-girl Catholic school.
Did you really? That explains a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
That explains a lot what happened in college when I got there. And I was like, let me try that acid and that mushroom and all that stuff.
Well, we're already on high school, so we're almost there.
Right. High school was tough though for me. High school, I feel like, was my kindergarten into Hollywood, because it was an all-girls school. They were rich. We didn't have any money. So my dad started working 3 jobs to put us through Catholic school. And so there was a lot of bullying, a lot of like, what is that movie? Pretty in Pink. Is that the name of it? Where Molly Ringwald just like couldn't get a prom dress and the girls made fun of her. So I had a lot of problems. Like my hair was lit on fire. Girls would wait for me after school to beat me up with pipes.
What?
And
wait a second. Back it up. They waited for you to beat you up with pipes?
Yeah. It was bad.
Remember what happened?
Yeah. I was walking home from school and a girl from a neighboring high school said that I looked at her boyfriend. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And they followed me all the way home. And then my mom and dad came out and gave him a piece or two. My dad actually threw one of them down the stairs. So it was nice to have my dad have my back, but it was a tough time. But I feel like it gave me some armor. Gave me the armor that I needed to when I went out to Hollywood, and critics, cliques. I was able to manage myself through that, I think, because of what I went through in high school.
Why Catholic school? Like why? Was it a bad school district? So that was like the best option? Because that can happen in areas.
True.
Or was it just
my
mom?
mom?
This is going to be so good for Jenny. We're going to send her. And wait, how many brothers, sisters? What do you have?
I have 3 sisters.
What?
3 sisters.
Yeah.
4 girls. 4 girls in our house. So my parents, my mom was very religious, very Catholic.
Okay, well there it is.
Yeah. So she was like, "You're gonna burn in hell if you don't go to Catholic school." Her belief system.
But then college.
Then college came, and I was.
What'd you go to college for?
I went to college. I went in for special ed. I wanted to be a special ed teacher, ironically. And then one of the first classes I had to take was public speaking, and I couldn't do public speaking. I literally would throw up. So I was in the class and they called on me and I ran right out of the room, went down to my, I don't know what you call it, aid counselor, whatever you call it, and said, I can't take public speaking. I can't. She's like, "Do you want to change your major?" I was like, "Yeah." Does nursing have public speaking? And she said, "No." So I changed my major to nursing, but I only made it 2 years because I went broke. So almost there. I know.
Wait, hang on. We got to talk about your mushrooms and acid in college.
have to.
So do you feel like you got that out of your system? Like, was it crazy? Like, do you have a crazy college story?
I have so many kids come crazy. Where do I fucking start?
Jenny,
Okay, here we go.
I have a GED. I didn't even finish high school. I didn't even go to like a, graduation.
Yeah, but look at the most successful people don't. So you're in with the good crowd. So I went there and we didn't have much money at all. So I started by selling weed. I would sell like shake. So anyone that had leftover shit in their bags, I would put it all together and I would sell literally shake for food. Then I would also flirt with guys in a bar to go home with them.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, why don't you go in your bedroom and I'll meet you there? And then I'd go to the refrigerator and I would steal the food out of their fridge and take it home. And that's how I literally.
Did you split? Like, did you like leave with the food and leave them high and dry?
Like, had him wait in his bedroom. I stole all the frozen pizzas and stuff out of the, and it only gets worse too. But then
you're so resourceful.
Very, very. And I then started getting, besides smoking the weed, someone was like, why don't we try acid? And I'm like, all right, expand my mind. That sounds so interesting. That would be the door that opened for me, where I would then eventually, for the rest of my life, be interested in everything with consciousness, ethereal, just mind expanding. And my acid trips were so amazing. Like, I got so good at it, too good at it, that I created an acid tour in college. Yes, as a business.
Sure. Like, as in, like, take acid and I'm going to give you the best trip ever. And this is what we're going to do.
Yep. So I get like 20 people signed up and I was like a shaman of acid. And I would take people on this because I was at Southern Illinois University. So there's a lot of plush greenery and I would take them out for 12 hours, give them amazing experiences and then do like weird things, like read them. Like I had the ability to be like, this is what you need to work on. And
you were like going into the consciousness of your friends and giving them like psychic advice.
Totally. But some people I didn't even know.
Do you still do these tours by any means at all?
You know what's so funny?
Now and again?
I would love to do another one. Like Donnie my husband's never done drugs, which is really weird for a rock star. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of miss, taking acid. And he's like, what? No, don't be ridiculous. And I'm like, no, I actually really kind of, not on a regular basis, but maybe like once around nature, because this is the thing about acid. And when I had dinner with Eckhart Tolle and I asked him about it,
which is amazing.
He took acid and he's like, I wanted to experience what it was like because so many people were talking to me about it. And I was like, oh my God, what is Eckhart Tolle like on acid? And he said, it's kind of weirdly enough, the place where I am now. You are present with everything. You literally are so in the present moment and every single thing is like, it's a miracle. You become like one with everything. It's like a tree you can stare at for like 8 hours because you're literally becoming one with the tree. And now, not all people have this experience. If you have bad shit going on in your life, that will kind of come up.
Set and setting, right, Jenny? You got to set and setting them. That's why you give them the tour. That's why you got to set them up. You're like, look, we're going to sit here. We're going to like get quiet. We're going to breathe. We're in nature. Set and setting. It's always important with those plant medicines or varietals and hallucinogenic.
That's why I'm like, when people go up and take that tea and stuff, I'm like, you better be in a good place, even though they go up there to bring up the old stuff and to work on their shadows.
By tea, do you mean ayahuasca?
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah. But I don't really want to try that for some reason. I'm not interested, but I would go for a good shroom or a good acid. And just even in my backyard, I'd be like, oh yeah. But I guess the goal though is to become present without the help of acid. You know what I mean?
So you've heard did you read the Ram Dass? Like that's kind of the Ram Dass story.
Wow.
Where the Be Here Now book. It's a really cool book. I mean, it has like lots of pictures, and if you follow Ram Dass on social media or something like that, they'll post like pictures that have, so it's a very different kind of book, but at the beginning is the whole story about how he was, I'm going to paraphrase and probably make a few mistakes here, but basically he was like a professor, and then then there was like a sort of testing of LSD, and he got into this state that he just loved. And so then it kind of became a thing. And then him and his, like someone that he worked with would do it all the time. Then at one point in time, they decided they want to be on LSD for 3 weeks straight. So they like had it all timed out. And then anyway, work kind of fell apart. I think he didn't really even want to do it anymore because he wasn't finding joy. So then he goes over to India, I suppose, or somewhere like that. And he is, drudging around with his buddy that, he did LSD for 3 weeks with, and plenty of other times, I'm sure. And he wanted to kind of like understand life and how do I get to that state that I'm in when I'm on it all the time. And so he as he's going through, like, he's there for a long time, and comes across this guru or shaman of some sort, and he gives him like a triple hit of LSD. And nothing happens. And he gives him another triple hit. I'm pretty sure it's a triple hit, and then another triple hit. So essentially it should be like 9 giant doses of LSD. And he was unaffected.
Wow.
And so that was, I think, because he was just so in that state. Like he was already at that frequency of existence where so I think, again, I'm probably making some mistakes, and somebody might criticize my like paraphrasing that I read this a couple of years ago in his book. But but that's kind of basically the Ram Dass story, is like him realizing that like you can achieve this state in a different way. And I think he actually didn't do it as much after that. But anyway.
It's true though, because I've got to a place where I'm like, okay, I'm done. I did probably over 100 hits in my tour guiding career. So the fact that he was able to take that much and he doesn't have brain damage makes me, that's the good part of the
Feels
story.
so good. See, well, now we're back to weekly tours, Jenny's weekly tours. This is such a good business transition. It's so with nature, it's with one, you got,
It was awesome because it made me, like I said, it opened the door for what would to come next. But what started happening was I was starting to give them free because I felt like it was helping people. So then I was like, okay, I got to come up with a new business. So this is where the story this is the crescendo of my college story. So I went to my, I lived in an apartment building, and I asked the administrator there, do you guys need any part-time work? And they were like, yeah, actually we do. So I started working there. I'm like, I am not going to pay my bills with making this rate. So I saw like a printer there and these like stickers. And I was like, what if I make parking passes, like VIP parking passes, and I sell them to freshmen? I sound like a real asshole. But I was desperate. I was totally desperate. So I printed out all these VIP parking passes and started selling them to freshmen. And I had like $3,000. I'm like, this is awesome. So I was like able to buy my books. I was almost getting kicked out of school because I couldn't pay for it. And I'm in my apartment in my bedroom, and there's a knock on my bedroom door, and my 3 roommates open the door, and they're like this. And I'm like, what? What's wrong? Who died? And they're like, there's 2 police at the door to arrest you. I was like, what? I'm like, did someone say I was selling weed? They're like, no. Did you
like, was it the acid?
And then I was like, was it my bounce checks? Because I would bounce checks everywhere on campus for $2 for Chinese food. So then I said, okay, stall. Just go talk to them and tell them I'm getting out of the shower. I'm going to jump out of the window. It was a 2-story building. I jumped out of the window, ran to my car, and never went back.
What?
Never went back.
You escaped? You left all your shit there? And just
left all my shit there and was like, oh, well, drove 6 hours home, went back with my mom and dad. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I couldn't afford school. And that really is really the truth of it. I tried really hard any which way. And they're like, all right. And I felt like such a loser. Like, going back home, I was like running from police. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do now?
You're like, my religious mother's going to be so mad. Pray for me, Mom.
Right? Pray for me. So I remember just laying on my waterbed.
Oh my God, you had one too? My mom and dad had one, and my sister had one.
Oh my God, those were the best and weird.
They put you to sleep so quick.
They did. And I remember just laying there being like super depressed, like literally, what am I gonna fucking do with my life? And then I kind of just went inward and said, is there anything else you'd like to do? And you know, ever since I was little, I would try to like make movies or interview. Like I'd set up my basement chairs everywhere and pretend to be Oprah and interview the neighbors and make these little videos. And I'm like, well, maybe I can like try my hand at like TV or modeling. So I didn't tell anyone this because I was like, they're going to tell me, don't be ridiculous. It will never happen for you. So I took a Polaroid camera and I went outside by my garage. And I literally took like 70 selfies. Why my garage? Is because the only thing that was a white backdrop. So I took 70 Polaroids.
Right. Because you gotta get the film back before you can actually pick one that looks good. Remember back in the day when we got so excited. You were in your car, like looking at them after you, okay, got it. Yep. So you found probably 69 that were good.
If that. So then I took the yellow pages, millennials are probably like, what? And I opened it up to commercial agencies and I put each one in an envelope and I mailed 70 of them out. And I just waited and thought, well, if I hear back, great. If I don't, then there's my trajectory, you know? And I got one letter back that said, we'd love to meet with you downtown Chicago and come meet us. So I borrowed an outfit from JCPenney's, kept the tags on, and took the bus downtown Chicago and went to this agency. And I sat down and she said, I brought you in here just to help you out by telling you you'll never make it in this business. You should just become a bartender. I'm going to save you a lifetime of like hell by trying to go down this route. And I was like,
God, I hope
oh my God.
Her name. I really hope you remember her name.
I do. And I sent her a cover of me and the Rolling Stone 2 years later.
My God. The satisfaction in that.
You know, yeah. And, you know, I think there is and we've heard this before, people that tell you no, or you can't do anything, or you can't do it. That always gave me drive. Like always, it fuels me to this day. If people say, you'll never be able to do that, then I'm like, oh, really? Just watch me. So that was the end of, and that wasn't the end of the story. I left her building and was on the curb crying like shit. And after I was done crying, I kind of looked up and across the street was the Playboy building. And I was like, oh, don't do that. Your mom will kill you. My mom's Mother Teresa. I have 4 aunts that are nuns, 6 uncles that are priests. It's like, we're like the Vatican, the McCarthys.
Oh my God.
So I found myself walking across the street saying to myself, let me just ask the secretary a question. So I took the elevator up and I went to the lady, considering I was wearing this JCPenney outfit I was borrowing. Why not get, more use out of it? So I go to her and I say, how do girls become playmates? And she said, not by walking in. They send in a photo of themselves in a bikini and we get about 1 million pictures a year. So take a picture and send it in. I said, okay. Turn around, press the elevator button and I'm waiting. And this guy walks past and he said, are you inquiring about being a playmate? I said, yes, because I still wasn't sure. And he said, we have a photo shoot happening right now. If you feel comfortable putting a bikini on and just taking a quick picture, and we can send it to Hef. And I'm thinking to myself, a million miles an hour, did I shave?
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared. So, and by the way, back then, in the early 90s, no one was shaving their muff. At least I wasn't in the Midwest. I didn't know anyone even trimmed it. So it was like cool. So I go in the back and I put on this bikini and I'm in this Playboy studio and I'm like, how the fuck did this happen? Destiny, maybe? I don't know. So I go on set and the photographer's like, okay, just stand there and strike a pose. And I'm so stiff. I do a mug shot. I literally go stand forward and then I do a profile and smile. And that's all I could give them and I'm in a bikini.
And your muff is coming out the sides.
So I take the city bus back home, which was like an hour drive. And when I got home, my little answering machine said, hi, we want to officially test you for Miss October. I was like, oh,
are you kidding me?
This was all on the same day. Like, I go downtown, this lady denies me, and then I see the Playboy thing had to be, it was literally across the street, like weird serendipity, weird. So I sat there for a second going, I don't know if I can do this because I have to sell my soul to the devil because I too was in the belief system that I was going to burn in hell if I did this. And I was like, well, I have nowhere else no other direction. Maybe this will get me into Hollywood and open some doors. And I did it. And it was terrifying and scary. And I almost didn't make it because they said I had the worst expressions they've ever seen on a Playmate because I looked terrified. They're like, you look like you're watching a murder.
Was it your first ever photo shoot?
First ever photo shoot.
No shit.
Yep.
You know how many girls are so angry because they've probably done a million and they're like, I just want to be Playmate. Like I'm a professional. And you're like, so I look like I was doing a mugshot and it's my first time.
I will say this about Playboy though, is their goal is to like find the girl next door, and I was really the girl next door. Like I had one fucking unibrow. I've never even plucked an eyebrow. It was just so crazy. So they gave me one more day. They said, go home and practice sexy faces in the mirror. I'm like, what? How do you do a sexy face? I'm like trying to do my lips. And so I went back the next day and I go, listen, the only thing I can do is smile. That's all I know how to do. And they're like, then just smile. So I smiled. And then I got a phone call a week later that Hef said, you're officially Miss October 1993. And I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And how am I going to tell my parents?
Jesus. What month was it? Do you remember how much time you had to figure this scenario out?
I was told in February and October, was coming out. And I thought I was so clever because in Playboy, they make you fill out this, the Playboy sheet of like your likes and dislikes and your sizes. And I put where I'm from, I put Park Ridge, Illinois, just to try to throw people off. Like that would throw people.
Like, oh yeah, it's not the Jenny McCarthy from Evergreen. It's the Jenny McCarthy from Park Ridge.
And so I took some of the money and I paid off some of my college debt. And then I took the other part and I sent my parents on a cruise the week the issue was coming out. And that was right?
Wait, how much did they pay you? They paid you?
They paid $20,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were excited about $3,000. You're like, that was easy.
I mean, it was crazy. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. And I have enough money to go to LA to get there at least.
Wait, and how did you explain to your family how you got money to do anything?
I told them that I got a job modeling for like commercials. I did start doing conventions. Like I was a hot dog at the convention center or I was a cheerleader at the convention center. Those things were true. I just said I got paid a lot more than I did. So I sent them on a cruise. And then while they were on the cruise, I wrote each one of them letters separately because mom is different than dad.
Mhm.
And Playboy had me go to Los Angeles the day they were coming home. So I wasn't even going to be there. Mind you, my aunts who were nuns, my uncles who were priests were calling my house telling me I'm going to burn in hell forever because it was on the news. It was on the freaking news. This local girl from Chicago from prestigious Catholic school poses naked. Back then it was huge, it was a big scandal.
It's still huge. I mean, it's still the girl next door gets naked.
I know.
Well, what's the lesson? Like, what's the lesson in it, right? Because like, I always like to loop things around because like it's amazing freaking stories you have. And you're so open, which is amazing. But what's the lesson, right? There had to have been something that you took from it. You're like, okay, this I'm not going to ever do again. And I'm going to own this, or I'm going to, from now on, I'm going to trust my intuition or whatever. Like, what did you go, whoo, this is a big deal. And here's what I'm taking from it.
What I took from it is whatever you fear, run towards it, not away from it. Like, go with your intuition, even if it scares the shit out of you, even if it's going to upset people around you.
Sure.
That's fear. And who knows? I was terrified of going to LA and making it or not making it or failing, and my aunts and uncles condemning me to hell. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run towards it. I have nothing to lose. I've got a feeling inside. This happened to work out the way it did. I'm just going to run right towards this fear. And thank God I did, honestly. And that's what I've continued to do in the course of my career is anything I'm nervous about, I go, okay, thank you, emotional guidance system. Thank you for alerting me that that's what I should do. Now, mind you, if I'm fearful of jumping off of a cliff, that makes sense. Of course, you should be scared of that. I don't say then go jump off a cliff. It's
Right.
more about like opportunities, because a lot of people are scared to quit their jobs and take a new one.
Yeah.
Break up with their boyfriends or girlfriends, because they're scared to be alone. To me, that is a sign from emotional guidance system that that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Run towards it.
Tell me another story where you ran towards it.
Oh, God.
One that was like a tough one. Like, what's a tough one?
A tough one was, there's a few of them. My son, when he was diagnosed with autism, and he had seizures that he actually went into cardiac arrest and died in front of me, recovered obviously, but I dropped that was the lowest of low. Any mother would say the same thing. I mean, he was blue. They started CPR. He had 75 more seizures that in the next 2 days. It was just an awful time. And the doctors said to me, there's really nothing you can do. The best thing you can do is just maybe get him some, instruction, some teachers that can teach him how to maybe put food in his mouth. Function, because he's probably going to be institutionalized. So I was obviously depressed and horrified by that. But then I had this intuition of, there's got to be something else. There's got to be someone that offers hope. Someone. So this is when online just kind of really started a little bit, and I
love the long sounds that you hear, like I'm on.
So I found a small group of parents, doctors, and scientists. I mean, teeny tiny.
Yeah.
No one heard of them. They were hiding, and said hope for recovery. And in the process of what they were offering were alternative things that were not sanctioned. And it's scary because now I'm going to use my kid as a possible guinea pig to try to save him. And that's fucking scary. I'm going to try stuff on him that we don't know, no one knows, works or not.
Right.
And I had to make that decision of take the safe road or take the scary as shit road and do everything you could possibly do. And I dove in to the deep end.
Wow.
And when I say I did everything, this poor kid, I was rubbing spoons on him. I had Mormons come over to do a prayer. I had like anything I could possibly read, like injecting them with just detox and you name it. But by the grace of God, he got better. He got better and he got better and he got better. And I was like, all right, maybe this is another one of my missions. Maybe this is the only reason I became famous, is to actually help mothers and dads and families who might have a chance of their kid getting a little bit better. And when I got that realization, when I kind of put that together, I literally felt an electric bolt, like came down from the heavens. And like, I was sitting at the computer like, oh my God, like this is what I need to do. And so once I concentrated on getting him better, then I spent the next 3 to 5 years solely touring the country, going from city to city, sitting down with over 500,000 moms face to face going, okay, this is what you try. This is what you try. It's not going to work for everybody, but kids can get better if you do this and that and that and that. And I did that for like 3 to 5 years before I burned out. Because emotionally, I was like burning out. I still, of course, am helping people, but just it's not my 9 to 5.
Well,
anymore.
I mean, you came from, not only Playboy, but singled out and, like this sort of fun, sort of out there, personality. And then here you go into, which your first book, Belly Laughs, right? Isn't that was while you were pregnant, right? I mean, that was like, I remember like every single friggin' mom had to get that book. They're like, oh, that's the real shit. That's the real shit that happens. And then after that, with everything to do with autism and with Evan and with the books and like you really, I don't know, to me, it really built you as this whole person that's not just over here, like, looking amazing and doing these things that maybe not everyone's comfortable with and can do. And then you're over here and you're like, oh, wow, she's got content. She has depth. She has intelligence. She has integrity. And she has obviously faced some huge challenges. So like, I don't know, for me, from the outside, I was like, holy shit, she's legit. Like she's not just singled out Jenny.
No, and when I look back on it in hindsight and go, I'm grateful for this journey, because who knows, I could have been still identified in that role, that how everyone perceived me, which is really easy to do in this business, and it gave me purpose. And I always wanted to serve in some capacity. And I knew it wasn't just to be the, funny chick that farts and picks her nose. I'm way more than that. So the fact that I knew I had a bigger purpose to help serve.
Oh yeah. You totally took the conversation about vaccinations and about autism. I honestly feel like you put it on the map.
Yeah. There were parents that came before me, but I was the first, I think, loudmouth that really, sat in Oprah's chair with her and went live and talked about it for the first time. And, still get shit about it. I still get, daily, bombardments about it. Oh yeah. But I get bombardments about my fake ponytail. You know what I mean? It's like, I learned from high school though, those are projections, it has nothing to do with me. If I had their level of consciousness, that's how I would react to, if I had their history. And this goes for anybody and everyone. That's how I look at it. That's how I look at people with who want to wear masks and people who don't want to wear masks. I go, if I lived in their body and had their history and lived their whole life, that would be my level of consciousness. And that's how I too would react.
Yeah.
And so it makes it so much more peaceful coming from that perspective.
for you to achieve that young. I'm like, you're saying these things and I'm like, yeah, the way that someone treats me has a lot more to do with how they feel about themselves than it does with who I actually am. Whether it's, this morning walking the dogs in the forest and having people just berate you for not having them on the leash. And then I can see my mom react. I'm like, Mom, why do you even respond? Like, that's what they want from you. Their level of consciousness is here. They're in a fear state. Like, just let them, they like imagine that they're in their own little bubble of energy and it has nothing to do with me. Like, they want you to react to justify their fear and to play with it. Just leave it alone. So how'd you get there though? Like, you're saying that you recognized this a long time ago. And I'm like, yeah, that was like this morning.
When I went to Los Angeles, when I left that day and I drove my U-Haul that only would go 30 miles an hour, which was fun. The first week I was there, I went into the Psychic Guide bookshop and I was like, oh my God.
Oh, because in LA, there's all that stuff. I mean, it's way more hippie stores. It's really hard to find hippie stuff in Chicago.
Really hard. And so I walked in and I was like, oh my God, books on astral projection and near-death experiences and consciousness and becoming your higher self. What does this mean? So I was like 21, absorbing all of these books and this information and having my mind expand and losing my belief systems that I just grew up with for 20 years.
Of course.
And it was a magical time because I was a clean slate and I was like, let me open up to all the possibilities. And then I just became somewhat addicted to like self-help and, consciousness and astrology. And I just love it. I literally watch probably 4 to 5 hours a day of like spiritual videos, self-help videos.
So do I. I mean, YouTube is basically like, it's about 2 years ago, I stopped watching the news. At first it's kind of weird and you feel uncomfortable and you want to, like, I would normally just turn on Good Morning America, Today Show, something like that. It was like almost like a comfort to me. And so at first you're like, oh shoot, this is kind of odd. And anytime you're trying to make a pattern change, it's always uncomfortable at first. And then I'm like, what do I do? So then I was like, I don't know, I can watch something. I'll watch a video on something. So then I get my phone out and then I just start searching for like topics that are interesting to me. And it's not the first time I've used YouTube, but it was the first time that I started using YouTube as essentially like my only means of education about anything, right? Not about the world, like just about like reality and quantum physics and metaphysics and how the world works and, entities and aliens and, I mean, just any consciousness, of course, and like how we create our own reality. And like, that's my news. So that's what I watch. I watch that all the time. And then whatever my hot topic of the time is, I'm like deep diving into that. So, and of course YouTube's so helpful because it just populates your feed with everything that has to do with whatever you just looked at. So the more you look, the more you look.
That's why when I talked to you the first time, I was like, oh my God, we're going to be fucking soul sisters because I don't know anyone that's like me except you who watches as much as we do. I mean, it's like
so much.
It'd be funny to like look at our history sometime and compare it because it's like, I
just had a breakup. You probably don't want to look at my history right now.
Oh, how are you doing, by the way?
Oh, well, growing, right? Because
yes,
from anything that happens to you that is challenging, there is an opportunity to grow if you choose it, right? So for me, I'm learning about boundaries. I'm learning about, my own self-worth and, just also kind of just how I like to operate in my day. Like, how does my day look? Like only me, because I've never done that. And so my nature is to kind of fix and, help and, be accommodating and go with the flow. But, you lose yourself a little. So I'm, but anyway, that's for girl talk and wine.
Exactly.
But it's so informative. And, do you have a hot topic you're checking? Like, what do you feel like you're looking up now? What's at the top of the feed for curiosity?
It really depends on the week. Like, 3 weeks ago or maybe a month ago, it was like star seeds and light workers and dimensions and the law of one. The law of one I'm really into.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the law of one? So it's very confusing for, the way they speak. It's basically a book that was not a book. You can listen to the audio tapes of some, it was channeled by, I think, sixth density beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it was confusing, but I found a guy on YouTube that I'm now addicted to. He's my latest binge everything. I've probably watched 1,000 hours worth of his. He breaks down Eckhart Tolle, the law of one, everything that we like outside of the super UFO alien stuff, but still law of one is still considered aliens. His name's Aaron Apke. You should have him on your show. He's young. He's like 27, and he's every one of his videos, I'm like, oh my God, he speaks like us. Like sometimes Eckhart, in the beginning, I was like, is he speaking Spanish? I don't really understand what Eckhart is saying. But as time went on, I finally got the hang of it. But this guy, Aaron Apke, I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally addicted to. I just had him on my show too.
Don't you wonder how someone, because I feel like this is something I've come across too with looking up people on YouTube, is that there are some folks that are real freaking young that are enlightened. Like they have some level of understanding for existence and reality that's next level natural. Almost like you don't get the feeling like they even learned it. Like they just know it.
Correct. Yes.
I have this theory that all these really, like, whether it be Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein or, Eckhart Tolle or any of these people that have come through history that we look at as being like, oh, wow, they were really a thought leader. Like, I actually feel as though the trajectory of our culture is getting higher, rising in consciousness. But these people that come in are essentially, I think, all just like these totally like super intelligent, enlightened, aware, like they didn't forget everything when they came into this life.
Correct.
But I feel like these people that come in throughout history aren't actually like, I feel like they're special humans that if you put them into 2056 versus, 1856, like they're still going to be the same, like uber intelligent, enlightened being. I feel like it's like culture that's growing, rising in consciousness, but these people that come along are just brilliant. And like, maybe there's more and more. And so maybe Starseed is kind of, something to look at.
Maybe,
but I'm always so blown away by these youngsters.
Me too. I'm on TikTok. I'm addicted to TikTok too, like the funny videos. But there's also like, because they know I like spiritual stuff, the spiritual, like 20-year-olds are speaking these words of wisdom. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I believe the same thing. I feel like humanity has gotten to like kind of a crisis point where all of these higher density beings said, you know what, let me go in there. Let's all go in there and, and kind of elevate the consciousness of the planet. Yeah. And light workers, you can call them whatever you want. Wanderers, I've heard. It's working. I feel like the last, 30 years, there's definitely been a shift where 30 years ago, you don't really hear about near-death experiences mainstream or any of the language we use now. Consciousness, people will be like, what? Did you get knocked out? Did you black out? Is that what you mean by consciousness? But now today I definitely feel like even though it's a mad time right now, chaos does create, elevated consciousness. So hopefully these light workers are, actually light workers. I think they are.
Yeah. Wait, but I really am curious what you think is going on right now. Like 2020 is crazy, right? And so, just like you said, there can be obviously the good found in all this. And so, with all the destruction is a rebuilding in a new beautiful way. But what the hell's going on? Like if you go into your intuition and go, here's what's happening.
I mean, what I kind of tap into is a moment in time where we're given this opportunity to ascend if we choose to. Not only do we have the time during quarantine to notice behaviors, get triggered by behaviors, I do feel like we've entered into a phase where we have the opportunity to fast track ascend right now. Whether that's a micronova that I've heard about that could be happening, but we are orbiting into this new kind of galactic energy. I don't know if you've gone in that route on YouTube yet. So the Earth is literally rotating into a new part of the galaxy where the energies are like Christ-like consciousness. And this is true. It's on like the NASA. It's not just metaphysical, but moving into these energies, we're all going to feel it. They call it like end of time madness. And it literally, it everything, your karma you feel, memories you feel, triggers are much higher and heightened. And this is all to kind of bring us aware and to look at it and make changes. So even though the news, is showing the horrific things that are for real going on, it's up to us and each of ourselves to do that kind of inner work. I do feel that as much as we want to convince or teach everyone around us, even not around us, just anywhere on social media or your parents or, even your kids, it really does start with yourself. Like go inward, like work on your triggers, work on your emotional guidance system, because it's amazing how much compassion you could actually find for an asshole Karen in your heart when you're doing the work. And I'm sure you understand when I say asshole Karen, but which is the name they refer to as people that are, losing their minds in stores and yelling at people. But it's amazing how your perspective can change and your life can change by going inward and doing the work on things that trigger you.
I mean, I think that's what they always say. It starts with you. If everyone just looked at themselves and fixed themselves, then everything essentially is fixed immediately, right? If we could all just do that, it takes a hell of a lot longer to go convince people, teach people, educate people, just start with yourself. But that's it's hard, right? Where do you start? And I feel like even for myself, you look at your life and you look at who you are and you think, oh, I'm good. I'm totally rational. I make good decisions. I know the best way to do everything. Like you go, I'm so normal. I'm sure it's their problem, not mine. So it's almost just hard to even know when it is you. How do you know when it's you?
Your triggers. Triggers, because I'll go like, well, I feel pretty peaceful in my life right now. And I'm actually working on, I do take one spiritual practice at a time. So the one I'm working on right now is everyone is me. We're all God. Everyone is me. So everyone I interact with and I look at, I'm like, oh, you're me experiencing life through a different perspective. And that's kind of a hard thing to work on. But I really think by following your emotions, your triggers, what makes you sad, mad, jealous, angry, there's plenty to work on right there. So if you start to heal those things and to start to look into those things, it's amazing how much not only does it raise your consciousness, but lighter you feel, happier you feel. And then the next time something, happens, you notice, oh my gosh, I'm not reacting. I found that space in between the emotions and the reaction. And that is everything. So again, it starts with yourself.
What was the most recent thing that you feel like you've healed or corrected or reprogrammed in yourself to not notice a trigger for?
I would say the thing that kind of went, ooh, that really worked was I've been working on that. You're me. Everyone I meet is myself, which is really easy to do when you are like people. But now cut to the person that is yelling at you or calling you names or hurt you. And you're just like, you want to be like, you know what? Fuck you. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear, but you know, you want to explode. And I'm like, okay, how can I get someone that's an asshole to me? How do I look at them as God or as myself? I'm trying. And then it hit me. It hit me. I immediately put my son as that person. So this person that was rude, impatient, mean to me, I put my son as that person. And now I have compassion, understanding. Because of course I would have compassion for my son if he was hurting. And my heart opened up. I was like, ka-chunka bro. So it's still a work in progress, but that's what I'm working on right now, especially if like I'll have to go on social media and someone will be like, blah, 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 blah. And I go, I notice the first feeling of me wanting to react, and then I stop, and then I go, okay, this person is my son, and now I have compassion. And then I go into, if I had their level of consciousness and their life experiences, I would be on yelling at Jenny McCarthy too. And it just brings me to peace. But it takes a lot of work.
That's beautiful. When you mentioned that, I remember somebody saying to imagine everyone as a child. Just so you put Evan in that place to be that person so that it can change the way you feel and respond. But I've also heard someone say, imagine everyone as a child, like Jenny or the kid. Like if you said something to me, I'd imagine you as like a little girl, and then you feel empathy and you understand. But that's just like what they were taught. Have you gotten into
honestly, those triggers that we have are, let's face it, are our core trauma from childhood.
I was just going to ask, have you gotten into the childhood trauma thing yet? Because that's hot button. I mean, I just had a whole conversation with my mom today, and I'm like, are you mad, Mom? Are you mad? You know, like talking about fixing triggers or, you know, how to correct, you know, certain programming she doesn't like about herself. And it's like, I could feel myself being a little preachy in a way that like wants to help. Right.
Totally.
But yeah, the childhood trauma thing's real.
It is real. It is. And if people are really scared to go back and look at theirs. And I understand, you know, I did my own therapy over years and years and years. So I've gotten to know my inner child really well, but it helps in relationships because if Donnie gets triggered by something that might be small, I can immediately go, that's baby Donnie that didn't get A, B, and C in his childhood. And how do I know that? Because we've had those talks. I know his wounds.
So he's done this too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We both have. When we met up, the first day I met him, I said, listen, just so you know, I'm into self-help. I really love it. I'm into Byron Katie. I'm into Eckhart Tolle. So if you want to go on this journey, get ready. And he was like, I'm in. So the whole time we've been on this course together, growing and learning and kind of holding the light, I call it, for one another. So if one of us is caught up in our ego or we're not awake and we're triggered, but the other one can remain present, we call it kind of holding the light. So the one that's present and holding the light allows the space for the person to kind of get it out. And it's amazing because when you don't react as the partner holding the light, that person is able to have a full circle moment and actually hear what they're saying. But they can't do that if we immediately go, what the hell are you talking about? I didn't do that. Blah, 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 blah. Then it starts a war, you know. But that's one thing that we started our relationship right away going, let's learn this together.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful.
That's
fun.
We have to have both people involved, right? It takes two to make a relationship work, always. one can't carry the weight of it, right? One can't carry the weight of it. And it's so good that he wanted to go on that journey.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank God, because like you said, it's one could only stand, I think, there so long, and be a partner if the other one doesn't want to grow. I mean, you could Buddha it out and be a Zen master and be like, okay, yes, okay, yes, okay, yes. But that's where self-love comes in,
Yeah,
I've left relationships.
Kind of like living a single life then. I mean, if you're the only one that's just kind of like, yes, like I feel like it'd be like being single instead of being in a partnership where you help each other grow. Because with the right person, the opportunity is there for your biggest growth, because they're your most intense mirror.
The best teacher, they say, and it really is. Like, I've learned a lot out of relationships. Like, I've found my voice in past relationships because the relationships was so bad. It was so bad that I finally had to learn to speak up, because all I would do was read my self-help books. And I'd be like, okay, the problem's in me. I've got to figure this out. And then I realized the biggest lesson of all, no, I got to use my voice. I've got to communicate, and boom, the light that was the biggest, I think, wake up moment for me. Because when I started to use my voice, that's when I understood what self-love meant. Because self-love always confused me. I'm like, am I supposed to hug myself? Is it masturbation? What are we talking about here? What is self-love?
Sure.
And it's doing things that are good for you, for your growth, using your voice, saying no to people who might ask too much of you sometimes. And you always go, all right, I'll help you move. All right, I'll do this for you. No. Then you become a martyr. Then you become a victim and a martyr. So that was one of the greatest tools a horrible relationship gave me.
I'm equally confused to what self-love kind of meant. Like, I love myself, but understanding that, just like you said, that as well as, for me, learning boundaries of just, not boundaries of like, don't cross this line, or like, don't punch me, but like speaking up for what it is that you want, and not letting someone take advantage of your kindness or your level of giving or whatever it may be, is to sort of say, like, whether it be, early on in a relationship and you're the one that's always going to see them, be like, okay, so a boundary is like, I need equal effort. So if you don't come see me, or you might not even have to say that, you just let the chips fall and you go, guess that didn't work,
Right.
But those kinds of boundaries. So does Donnie like aliens too? I mean, I feel like this is important.
Oh my God. I love talking about aliens. I talk about it on my show and they always make fun of me, but I don't care, because I don't care. He is now educated. I'll use that word. He's educated in the UFO stuff. Sometimes he'll send me news clippings. He'll like read something, clippings. Like, what am I from, the 40s?
You're a Midwesterner.
He'll send me text messages of like, oh, wow, look what this Pentagon just announced, that they're, announcing their thing. So he's definitely involved via, by proxy, but he's no big, huge, oh my God, let's go to a mountain to go watch them. Whereas, it's my dream trip.
What was that other movie? There was a movie that was done by Stephen Greer. Did you see the more recent one by Stephen Greer?
Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
Yeah. Have you been summoning the aliens? Because in the movie, so if anyone hasn't seen it, it's really good. And it actually gets to intention and creation. And it's not just like aliens and something so out there that it doesn't resonate with you. It gets to more of like creating your reality and asking for what you want. And part of it is like summoning the aliens.
Yeah. Definitely one thing I loved about this documentary is it combined UFOlogy with spiritual, and why they go together and why it kind of opens doors for certain people. But Stephen Greer has an app, and I got his app years ago to summon aliens. And I never did it. I've never tried to do it. I just was like, oh, cool app. But then when he came on my radio show, I was like, I have your app. He's like, it's updated. It's even better. And people in your neighborhood now, you can get together and do some summonings of the aliens. And I'm like, there's a place called ECETI. Do you know what that is? ECETI. All caps. You can look it up. It's a camp in, I forgot which state it is. Maybe Montana or something like that. But you go to this camp and it's a high vibrational kind of mountainous area. Mm-hmm. And they have daily UFO sightings. And you can go on their website and YouTube. And I just watched their live feed 2 nights ago. But you can see them like come down and glow. And they've got pictures of weird images and stuff. I mean.
Okay. So the you, me, and the whole scenario, we moved that out there.
Totally. I just told Donnie, I was like, can I please go to ECETI? He's like, why don't I go next week? And he's like, Jenny, there's COVID is happening. I'm like, but I really want to go so bad. He's like, listen, you've got your whole life. Take it easy. Summon them from the backyard from now. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, but my level of consciousness is not oriented with fear. I'm not afraid of COVID. And if I don't have a resonance of fear, then it can't get me.
Or the aliens can save me. One of the two.
Right? What would you do? I've thought about this myself. What would you do if there was a real alien encounter? Like it's crossed my mind. Like, what if you just see one? What if one appears? What if one's in your bedroom? What if have you ever run that through your mind of what that would be like and what you would do?
Well, I for sure have. And I've also wished and put intentions out there for only the high vibrational, high density aliens to show up. So blue avians, Palladians, whatever.
Yep.
As long as they're high vibrational, I'd be like, awesome. Then I'd be like, then I try to, be telepathic with them. I'm really most excited about their technology. The technology that supposedly, which someday they're going to bring, or they have brought. Let's not fool ourselves. They have brought. But I like the idea of the healing technologies that are coming, which I believe are here, but they're just being held back.
There was something that popped up on Instagram, and it was some old footage of this scientist that had a basket of some sort, and it was like a flying basket. And so I'd sent it to a few of my girlfriends, and I was like, I literally had this dream about this basket like a year or two ago, where it was like the way that you traveled interstellarly, like the way you traveled in space, was you get into this basket that looked just like this video. I'll forward you the video. And you got into it, and it was as if it had its own force field, like energetic bubble, that you could travel anywhere in so fast in the universe, and you wouldn't get windblown because of course you're in your own little force field.
Right.
And so you have this energetic bubble around, projecting out towards you that encompasses the little basket, and you go anywhere in the universe. That was a dream I had. And then I saw that video just yesterday and forwarded it. Yeah, I'll have to send it to you.
Oh my God, isn't that so cool? Have you dreamt of any aliens or anything?
No, I don't really dream of aliens.
I don't either. I mean, I keep wanting to consciously know I'm astral projecting, but I get as far as lucid dreaming, where I can fly in my dreams and I'm in control of my dreams. But I'm like, haven't met any aliens.
But what if we're all just fragments of energy? And so we see only what we've ever known to see in our mind. We don't have maybe that sort of creative awareness for other, or maybe we're just all the same, right? If we're just kind of fragments of energy, maybe a human is the same as a blue avian on the astral plane in some kind of way. I don't know. But then they say you can take ayahuasca and other plant medicines and other hallucinogenics, and you can kind of get in contact with them. It is true.
See them.
Aliens. Damn it.
I know. And it's also, we're, energy, and we're vibrating at a different speed. They're vibrating at another speed. So as more and more as we, I think, ascend and, we go higher up in the densities, we'll be able to see them or communicate with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be like the ones that channel, right? They can raise their frequency or access a frequency that channels, whether it's Abraham Hicks, like Esther Hicks channels, source energy, or Barbara Marenichik or something. There's plenty of them that channel, but they can tap into that frequency of something else. This is an interesting question, because this was actually probably the question for me that led me down, that really thrust me into the spiritual journey and curiosity, was the question, what is God?
When did you ask yourself that question?
This is probably 2016 or 17, probably, when I was like, what is God? That's my question. What is, not who is. And so the funny thing is when you ask people, they tend to answer who he is. Like, they don't answer from a what standpoint. Like, what is God? Because he's clearly not a dude sitting on a throne in the sky, right? Like, he's not a guy with a beard, and that's not right. So what is he?
Yeah,
what is
my
God?
answer is God is love.
Mm-hmm.
God is love. God is energy. Beautiful, energetic light. It only knows love.
Mm-hmm.
It wanted to experience love. So fragments of God are sprinkled about, those us being those sprinkles, to experience, we're still connected, to experience love. And the only way you can experience it is by having, things be polarized. So you have to have, look at us on this planet, a lot of polarization, but that's how you know and experience it. So that's how I feel that we're divinely connected to God, but God is all-knowing consciousness. God is love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. It's a frequency. And I feel like that's why it's omnipresent too, is because it's just a frequency, like achievable frequency, or maybe not achievable. I actually wonder that. I was telling my mom this morning, and I'm pretty sure it went over, and no, it went over her head, but because she told me that, but I wonder, could you be a human and experience Christ consciousness?
Well, Jesus did. Jesus was apparently, according to my sources, everyone, he's a fifth density being right now, experiencing fifth density. So, we're third, fourth. Yeah. Just to break it down, first density is earth, water, fire, that kind of thing. It's just being. Second density are animals, your pets, animals you see. Third density, that's us. As we move up, we become lighter, more high vibrational. Mm-hmm. Fourth density is about love, learning love. And fifth is wisdom. And sixth is understanding and wisdom or something. And then apparently 7, you connect back to source, or you go to the next octave. And then there's a whole other scale. But it basically matches your chakras. So 1 through 7. Yeah. Very interesting.
Oh,
I know.
When did you learn about chakras?
Probably back when I
talked for like 5 hours. So I don't know.
I know.
I have no idea when to wrap this up, but maybe we'll skip chakras. Maybe we'll get to since we're kind of on consciousness and, could you be a human? Do you believe, what do you think happens when we die?
Well, I do want to back up, and I think Eckhart is living Christ consciousness right now. Okay. What do I think happens when we die? I think that we we're met with beings, whether those be our angels, we call them, or old relatives, the past, and then we go through a life review. And I am only speaking about the 7,000 books I've read on this subject and the 8 million hours of YouTube videos I've watched on it. But everyone has consistently said you go through a life review. So you watch your life and you get to be each one of those people that you affected. So you feel what it feels like. I know. So the good, bad, and the ugly, but you don't judge yourself in a negative way. You come out of it like having understanding, compassion, and a knowingness of why you were on this planet and what you still need to work on. And then you're given the choice. You can go back, you can connect back with source, or you can become a guide to people that are still on the earth plane. You can, say, you know what, I'm going to go and help out, and be of service that way. That's what I think happens until we move up the densities and go connect back with source, God, source, whatever you want to call it, consciousness.
So do you or don't you believe in reincarnation?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That's where I feel like you have the choice to come back and recycle with your family members, if you want, and you choose your life. You choose the lessons that you want. So, I don't think you're alone in this. I feel like there's, guides and that you do have a choice. Everyone has a choice, but I certainly believe in reincarnation. And I don't believe there is a hell. I don't think God, source, all-knowing consciousness, created a burning pit of flames for all eternity. When we are here on this planet, I call it with my son, I call it an earth school. I go, this is an earth school, Evan. Everything that, any mistakes, you're like, I made a mistake. I go, you know why you make a mistake? So you can decide whether you want to be that person or do it again. And that's earth school. And we get to come back if we want to come to earth school. Hey, maybe we want to go to Venus school. Maybe we want to go to a different galaxy. So I think the choice is ours.
So do you think in the life review, you willingly take the role as essentially maybe the perpetrator in life? Maybe that you, like, let's say you stole a lot, like just as an example, like you stole, like you really were poor and like you were a bad, mean business person. You stole a lot of money. Do you think you come back as someone that then has everything taken away from them and is broke and money?
Totally do.
Or do you think that you elect to do that? Or do you think that that's your karma that comes back and they go, so you're going to come back in this life on the other side? Do you think it's your choice, or do you think that it's out of your hands?
I think it's your choice. I think you always have the choice. And I think in that place, on the other side, that you are all knowing at that point. You see the bigger picture. So I think you would certainly possibly choose to come back as the opposite of what you were to experience it. I also believe that even if you choose a different experience, you have karmic residue that you still have to experience based off of your other lifetimes. So residue, like I feel like even if you don't come back as the beggar or this, the perpetrator, you still have karma that you have to experience in whatever life you choose to kind of balance yourself out.
Do you think you're going to get to come back in a good or bad position next life?
I don't know if I want to. I think I want to
agree.
I love the journey, but I would really like to be in a different density. I think a lot of us would at this point. Like, I'd like to go just play a little bit in galaxies. And who knows, with the way we're, spitting out technology, and if they have disclosure about UFOs, maybe we'll, in my son's lifetime, he'll get to go visit some other places. Maybe that basket that you dreamt about will be a reality in our lifetime.
Well, I'd like to play with you in another dimension for a life, because I've said the same thing. I'm like, I need a break. I feel like I've been really, really, really doing it, really being in the middle of it, really being in the shit, really. I feel like I want to tap out. I'm tapping out. Oh, careful, dog might bark. I was like, I think the next life, I'm not a human next time.
Maybe just a guardian angel,
Nah, I kind of want to go to like another galaxy. I'd like to check out, some distant places for a lifetime. Let's do that together. Perhaps we actually already Maybe we already actually did.
I think we have. 100%. Because my feelings towards you, I was like, I love her. I'm like, oh my God, if you were my neighbors, we would be over every single day talking to each other. You know what I mean? So we definitely have a connection of some sort, and I'm sure we'll find that out someday.
Well, I can't wait to do some of your tours. I can't wait to seek out aliens with you, to drink some wine, to talk about all of these facets of existence that are just so fascinating and mysterious. Like, that is my jam. And you and I both have I'm going to just say, because I believe this is to be true about you, an insatiable mind when it comes to information and conversation about it.
Thanks everybody for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.